Have you ever been sitting in a crowded room, nodding along to a conversation while your mind is secretly light years away? You're smiling, you're making eye contact, but internally you're dissecting the meaning of a passing glance, unraveling the origin of a random emotion, or wondering why human beings exist at all. If this sounds like you aren't disconnected, you aren't antisocial, and you certainly aren't crazy. You are a deep thinker. And in a world that praises speed, loud voices, and surface level interactions, possessing a mind that refuses to stay in the shallows is both a profound gift and an exhausting burden. Today we are going to dive into the hidden psychology of the deep thinker. We'll uncover why your brain physically won't shut off, why small talk feels draining, and why your silence is actually the loudest thing about you. Most people move through life reacting. They see a tree and it's just a tree. They ask, "How are you?" and expect, "I'm fine." But a deep thinker doesn't just live life, they process it. Psychologists refer to this as high-trait introspection. While the average brain focuses on the external environment, your brain has a highly active default mode network. This is the region of the brain responsible for creativity, memory, and imagination. It means your mind is a web of constant, intricate connections. You don't just experience a moment, you hold it up to the light, turning it like a prism to see every hidden color. But there is a catch. This constant analysis leads to something called metacognition, the act of thinking about your own thinking. You are the protagonist of your life, but you are also the audience, the critic, and the director. You question your own motives, dissect your own fears, and constantly ask, why? And there's a massive difference between ordinary overthinking and deep thinking. Overthinking is anxiety. It's worrying about tomorrow's presentation or a bill you have to pay. But deep thinking, that is existential. It is looking at the night sky and feeling a crushing, beautiful weight because you are suddenly aware of time, mortality, and the terrifying beauty of consciousness. Because of this relentless mental machinery, deep thinkers often feel like aliens in their own hometowns. To survive, you become a social chameleon. You learn to give the short answer. You laugh politely when the conversation stays safely in the shallows of pop culture or the weather. Small talk isn't just boring to you. It actually feels suffocating. You crave the depths. You want to know people's fears, their childhood dreams, the ghosts that keep them awake at 2 a.m. But when you try to initiate these conversations, people often pull back. Not everyone wants to scuba dive. Most people are perfectly happy floating on the surface. So you retreat into silence. People mistake this silence for shyness, aloofness, or even arrogance. They couldn't be more wrong. Your silence isn't empty. It is deafeningly loud. Before you speak, your mind is running simulations, filtering through 10 different layers of subtext, tone, and emotional weight. You are searching for the exact right words because you know how much words matter. This mental depth doesn't just affect how you see the present. It fundamentally alters how you experience the past. Psychology describes this as depth processing. You don't encode memories as simple facts. You encode them as entire ecosystems of feeling. When you recall a moment from 10 years ago, you don't just remember what happened. You remember the exact temperature of the room, the song playing in the background, and the precise shade of sadness in someone's eyes. This is why nostalgia hits you like a freight train. You carry ghosts with you. It's also why you might find yourself awake at midnight, agonizing over a slightly awkward sentence you said 5 years ago. Your brain acts like a hyper-powered microscope, zooming in on microscopic interactions until they look like giant philosophical puzzles. You look for meaning where there might not be any. It's exhausting. It is like standing in a mental room with 10 radio stations playing at full volume at once, and you don't have the dial to turn them down. But here is the secret superpower of the deep thinker: emotional complexity. Because your analytical brain is heavily wired to your emotional centers, you don't just think, you feel your thoughts. You are a human lie detector. You notice the micro expressions others miss. The way someone's laugh doesn't quite reach their eyes. The heavy, unspoken tension in a quiet room. You absorb the energy of everyone around you. You understand that human beings aren't simply good or bad. You see the invisible scars that dictate their actions, which makes you incredibly forgiving. It is impossible to harbor hate when you understand the fragile architecture of the human heart. But absorbing all this data is overwhelming. It is the reason why after a long day of socializing, you don't just want to be alone. You need to be alone. Solitude isn't loneliness for you. Solitude is the only place where the noise stops. It is the sanctuary where you can finally untangle the web of the day and return to yourself. If you are a deep thinker, you already know the hardest lesson you will ever have to learn. You cannot think your way out of life. You cannot analyze your way to happiness. There comes a point where the microscope must be put away, where you have to accept that not every question has an answer and not every silence needs to be filled with meaning. To survive your own mind, you need an anchor: art, writing, music, nature, or even just sitting beneath a sky that doesn't demand to be understood. You have to learn to let your thoughts serve your life rather than consume it. And if you ever feel like you're too complicated or that you feel too much in a world that doesn't seem to care enough, don't you dare apologize. Don't shrink your mind to fit into shallow spaces. Don't dilute your conversations just to make others comfortable. The world needs people who can see the invisible, people who find poetry in the mundane, who bridge the gap between logic and empathy, and who remind the rest of humanity that life is not just a checklist of tasks. It is a breathtaking, terrifying, and beautiful mystery. Keep asking why. Keep diving deep. Because in a relentlessly shallow world, your depth is its own kind of light.